Pizina
and Co.
Welcome to
Second-Hand Haunting,
where we read ghost stories from a second-hand book I found in a second-hand shop and try and make sense of them.
Fun of them.
Sense of them?
Fun of them.
Sense of them.
Fun of them.
Hey, Ollie.
Hey, Callum.
Hey, Justin.
Oh, hello.
What are you doing here?
I don't know. I woke up and I was here.
Ah, well then. You seem to have stumbled into an episode of Second-Hand Haunting. That's a show on the Pizina network. Does any of that ring a bell to you?
I know those last three words.
Oh, which one?
And I'm very excited by them. Pizina Network. Hi, I'm Justin MacArthur, fellow podcaster and podcasting magnate. I run a show called Mates in Space, also on the Pizina Network, and I also do a little bit of running the thing as well. So,
Sure.
Yeah, I'm around.
So you can probably help us figure out this absolute shit show of a setup we've got here as we go, right?
I don't know that it's salvageable, but if anyone can salvage it, I will be here to do that. I'm on hand, I'm on deck, I'm on board.
I tell you, I'm actually really inspired to become a magnet of something.
Yeah, excellent. It's important. I think everyone's got to become a magnate of something in their life, and why not podcasting?
Sure.
There's never been a media entrepreneur based out of Adelaide that's caused irrevocable harm to the world. So
No, I don't know who you're talking about. Nor his sons.
You know what? I'd rather be known for something.
Yes.
Well, look, before we put you to work in the coal mines of podcast recording,
Yes.
do you know much about ghosts and hauntings and stuff?
It's interesting. My background with ghost stories, I'm 30 years old, so I grew up in the kind of late
little
2000s.
baby.
I know, I'm a sweet baby boy. And I grew up in the late 2000s, so I was kind of like peak at the time for internet atheism. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, like Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, but I was saved by Tim Minchin and kind of brought into a bit of secular humanism and actually learnt that people are quite nice.
Yeah, you don't have to be a dick to everyone.
Yeah, it turns out it can be quite good to like people and be around friends and spend good time with each other, which I'm glad that I discovered at some point. Late, but I discovered it. But as such, the period of my kind of mid to late 20s has been rediscovering a lot of stuff that maybe wouldn't have meant so much to me when I was in my teens and early 20s. So ghost stories are kind of one of those things where I was just like, there's nothing to be had there. And I think I really missed the boat on that. And I'm like, now like, I'm doubling down. I'm going way too far in the other direction, potentially.
Okay.
The other thing is, because I run a space podcast, I think it's really interesting that there's kind of been this historical thing, and we were talking about before we started recording.
Wait, so you run a space podcast and a podcast space?
Whoa.
Sorry, moving on.
That's exciting.
Love
Fantastic. Is there some sort of bell we ring when we make good puns?
Yep, it's called Cheers, man.
That was really crisp. I wanted to let that ring out a little bit. But yeah, so one of the things we've actually come across on the last season of Mates in Space, we've been talking about UFOs, alien encounters and that sort of thing. And there's a little bit of overlap between ghost sightings and alien encounters. It's kind of what you see when you look out at the light you see off the end of the pier. What is that? Is it a ghost? Is it an alien spaceship, you know?
Well, not to make this into a UFO podcast, definitely not the intention.
Go for it.
But we have absolutely no history of talking about that whatsoever. Don't know what you're talking about.
I'll happily corrupt your podcast and make it about space.
But no, I think there can be a lot of crossovers because it comes back to the unexplained.
Right.
And one of the last stories we had, Callum showed me a figure in a book, and it was this tall, white ghost in the middle of the road. And he was asking me to describe it, and I was holding back. Maybe I shouldn't have held back. My first thought was like, it's a tall white.
Oh, God.
It's an
My God.
It's an alien.
All right, listener, if you're not sure what that is, that's the Death Bogle of the Crossroads from literally last episode. You can find it. It's easy.
Missed opportunities.
Fantastic.
But yeah, and I think it was one of the things that we discussed was it felt like there was a lot more sightings back in the day when we had less media to capture it. And I feel like that's been the opposite with the UFO phenomenon. Like we see a lot more content coming out, but then also people generally disbelieving it. You know, so it's either forged, whether or not it could have been caused by something else.
It's just kind of in the
Let's not
zeitgeist.
Let's not do the deep dive.
No, but I also think the interesting thing, and perhaps some overlap here as well, is regardless of if you actually believe ghosts are real or if you believe aliens are out there, there are a lot of hucksters, and
Yes.
there are a lot of stories that are not the real thing. Absolutely. You know,
Okay,
people
so
might believe one thing.
I won't read anything from Scottish ghost stories today, because I think
No.
we figured out that's what it might be.
No, but I love that. I love, as a podcaster, I love that we have this cultural oral tradition. Storytelling is something that's been with us for the ages, and what we sit around the campfire and talk about may have changed, and maybe more aliens, or, you know, it's bad dates and it's aliens, and historically it was bad dates and it was ghosts. But
Sorry, do you mean like really not hitting it off with a romantic interest, or oops, I ate something from a tree that is disagreeing with me?
a little of both.
Okay.
And yeah, and don't ask any of my exes about the intersection of those two.
Oh no.
I like how he said one of the exes, like, he hasn't done that with the current. That's how he's locked it down.
Currents are an entirely different fruit.
All right, since you seem to know your stuff, do you want to hang around for a story or two tonight then?
Oh yeah,
Cool.
if you twist my arm, get me to stick around a little longer, I'll see what I can find.
Cool. Well, I found a whole bunch of stories, real short ones, from True Irish Ghost Stories, which, if you haven't listened for a while, it is a lawyer realised there was no repository anywhere of Irish folklore and ghost stories, so put an ad out in the newspaper saying, hey, Ireland, send me your ghost stories. This is what he got in return. So not a huckster, just legitimately trying to help a
Yes.
culture get back on its feet after some serious colonialism.
Very noble, admirable goal.
Yeah.
And how did that work out?
Well, we're going to fucking find out, aren't we?
One thing I always thought was really fascinating about the huckster phenomenon was two things. A, just not in me to do it. Secondly, not in me to like forge footage or something like that. I just don't see the appeal.
Well, you don't have a local tourist attraction to try and sell.
Well, maybe that's it. Yeah. I'd heard of a story that was a demon hunter, and they could see ghosts and poltergeists.
Could they?
And yeah, and apparently it also sold a lot of tickets to their tourist attraction. So yeah, so it could be one of those things.
Amazing how those two things came to be part of the same.
I mean, the Loch Ness Monster must have attracted some tourists to the area.
To the local hotel, yes. Well, we are nowhere near Loch Ness today. We are in Ireland. However, I do have one wildcard story from the old book Haunted Inns. I've read a bit. I found some decent ones in there. And if at any point you want me to do a ridiculous accent, you just call it out and we'll swap to that book.
I am very nervous because ridiculous accent could be fun or could be very bad.
I will try my hardest to get it
Excellent.
legitimately right.
Fantastic.
And that's when the humour comes in. But for today, let's jump over to Dublin, shall we? For the first couple stories here are all from the Dublin area.
Lovely. Love Dublin.
Have you been?
I have. I actually voted in my first federal election in Dublin while I was travelling. So yeah, I unfortunately came back to Australia and.
Oh, okay. So you're
the
in Dublin
Prime
and
Minister-
voted for the Australian election.
Yes,
you
yes,
didn't
yes.
just travel to Ireland and decide to cast a vote.
That's
No,
what
no.
I thought. Yeah, that's,
Right?
that's how I read these.
Sorry,
situations.
let me regroup. So I was travelling. I lived in Berlin for 6 months, and on my way travelling to Berlin, I was in Dublin for only 4 days, but that happened to coincide with the Australian federal election. So I spent one of the afternoons, the very limited time I had there, I spent going to the Australian embassy and casting a vote. And then I came back and Tony Abbott was the Prime Minister, and the less said of that, the better. But that's okay.
Good call.
I'll try not to make this too political.
Fun fact, I wasn't registered to vote well into my 20s.
I was worried where that sentence was going for a minute.
So,
dear.
so I wasn't registered to vote until I was 28. And the reason why I did get registered to vote was because I got a temporary job counting votes.
Oh my goodness.
No!
Yeah, with
Ollie,
the Electoral Commission. And when I was getting, literally, I still did like register straight away. And when I was going to get my first paycheck from the casual job that I was doing, the person that was giving out the paychecks, and whatever you do in this modern age, Vals, was like, by the way, we noticed that you weren't registered to vote. We're not actually legally allowed to pay you unless you're registered to vote. I'm like, oh, okay.
When they say participate in your country's electoral process, that is not what they mean. But well done.
Well, I've been voting ever since. It's been a real
Ride.
thing to do.
Yeah, what an exciting way to spend a Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's just a thing to do to not get fined, that's for sure.
Jesus Christ. All right, we're cutting that then.
It's okay, we can be different at it, you know.
We are glad Ollie is on the right path.
Now you know why I get a lot of my content cut.
Fantastic. Yeah, we
Last week he was basically advertising cigarettes.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, that's one of the few things that we actually can't do on the network. I'm usually very hands off, but that might be one of the few.
Yeah, that way. All right.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, get out and vote, kids.
I mean, I vote now, obviously.
Some years ago, a family had very uncanny experiences in a house in Rathgar, and subsequently another in Rathmines. These were communicated by one of the young ladies to Mrs. M.A. Wilkins, who published them in the Journal of the American SPR. Who, Justin, you might not know, it's come up once or twice.
No, complete news. You may have noticed from the subtle expression on my face.
That is the Society for Psychical Research.
Amazing.
Yes.
Awesome.
So this is a society in multiple countries at the time, so late 1800s, early 1900s, as science was really kicking off as like a thing that we can do it, figure out the world around us. Enough scientists went, what about ghosts? Are they real?
Right.
And so they legitimately investigated ghosts and
you've got
spirituality and all that stuff.
I'm glad someone's done it.
Yeah. They decided, no, it's all crap, but
But they did look into it.
yeah, they are
Have
not
they looked-
around any longer.
Have they looked hard enough? How?
Yes, they did. If you need to know more, go look up the history of the SPR. It's fascinating.
It sounds fascinating. That seems like a whole rabbit hole that I'm sure we don't have time to go into in this episode, but I would love to just hear about that sometime.
Yeah. So it was in the Journal of the American SPR, from which are here taken. The Rathgar house had a basement passage leading to a door into the yard. And along this passage, her mother and the children used to hear dragging, limping steps and the latch of the door rattling, but no one could ever be found when a search was made. The house bells were old and all in a row. I don't know what a house bell is. I should have looked this up, and I'm not going
I
to.
visualized like bells on the side of a house that they ring for no reason.
Oh, wait! It's like Downton Abbey. Like, there's a bell in each of the rooms, and when they pull the cord in the room, and down in, like, the servants' quarters, a little bell rings saying, hey, your attention is needed in the bedroom, the parlour, the dining room.
Fun fact: ghosts tend to haunt rich, wealthy people.
Yes.
Well, I would. They've got larger houses.
Yeah, exactly. More space to roam.
Yeah.
Also, better place to create echoes and just generally take up space. That's good.
Yeah,
you know.
big old creaky
important.
houses. Yeah.
I maintain that we should be haunting rich people's houses, whether or not we've died yet.
Ooh.
Yeah, we should just be going and visiting.
I agree.
Yeah.
First haunt, then eat the rich.
I'm not partial to any particular order. We can eat and then haunt. I've already eaten, so maybe we haunt first.
Yeah. Dinner was good. Either way, the house bells were old and all in a row, and on one occasion they all rang, apparently of their own accord. The lady narrator used to sleep in the back drawing room, and always when the light was put out she heard strange noises, as if someone was going round the room rubbing paper along the wall, while she often had the feeling that a person was standing beside her bed.
I just like the idea that someone did this. Like, it's just a person in her house
Yes.
rubbing paper on the walls.
It's a specific haunting, though, right? Paper on the
Right.
walls?
Right. I'm speaking with my audio producer hat on. I'm trying to think what else could produce a sound like paper being dragged against a wall of an old house.
Let me try a different perspective.
Okay.
The walls were probably wallpapered, right, back then?
Mm-hmm.
So is there just, like, rats or something between the wall and the wallpaper?
Oh, yeah. That would make sense.
Dragging, though.
Running along? I don't know.
I suppose, it's one of those things about an old echoey house is that sounds can start to sound like other sounds. So, I've got to think that a lot of these stories are someone heard rats, but they sounded really weird.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't think that explains the feeling that a person was standing beside her bed, though.
It's funny you should say that, because I actually do get that feeling from time to time.
Do you suffer from sleep paralysis?
I do.
Oh.
Yeah, I do. It's something I've actually had an issue with, more pronounced as a teenager and in my early 20s, but faded off as I got older. But I still get the occasional, bout.
Could you give us a brief explanation of how it feels to have sleep paralysis? And we'll keep that in our mind as we go through the rest of the stories.
yeah.
So I'm sure it's different for different people. And I have variations of it. The most extreme sleep paralysis I get is, I literally just, wake up in my mind, but the rest of my body I can't move.
Okay.
Hence sleep paralysis, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like you're laying there and it's like you're completely conscious. And it feels kind of like you're in a coma or something. Like you can hear everything, but you just can't move your body. And it just feels like you're trapped. It's like a panic state because it's like you're laying there, you can't move. And it was more horrible the first couple of times that I had it. But with most things in life, you kind of get used to it. And for me, I learned that all I needed to do was focus on moving one part of my body. Right? Once I can move
Kill Bill?
Yeah, similar to that. Yeah, as soon as I can move
That is a deep cut. Sorry.
yeah.
No, that's later in Kill Bill.
Okay.
But it's like if I can just move pinky or something it's like the spell's lifted and I can just move the rest of my body. Okay. So I don't know the psychology or how that works, but so
do you ever feel like a presence in the room with you or on you? So that's what I've heard.
Right. So during those bouts, no.
Okay.
But then that's what I was saying. There's variations. There'll be really vivid dreams where I feel like I'm awake and I'm half awake. I feels incredibly real, and I can feel a presence or someone trying to break into the house or someone next to me in the bed or something like that.
Right.
And
that's not your wife.
That's something more terrifying or something that
Sorry, Georgia. I'm sure that came out wrong.
Which is more like a nightmare that I just need to wake up from. But it's still that kind of that feeling. But yeah, so that's the two variations I have.
Okay.
Fun for me. But it's not actually that common. So that waking up in my body would happen maybe a couple times a year when I was younger. I've had it happen to me once in the last 5 years. So it's still
slowly going away.
Well, it's one of those things where you think it's gone, then it happens, and you're oh, whoops, oh well. Yeah. Not the end of the world.
Just enough for you to forget.
So the feeling like someone's standing on my bed, that's still a couple of times a year.
Oh, God, okay.
Well, and imagine if you had that feeling and did not have any cultural reference point for that as well.
So true, right?
Right, if you're in this era, it's not like you've ever heard a story of sleep paralysis. You just know that you and nobody else feels a presence in the room, right? That's got to be, haunting.
Yeah.
You make good points. I think that it's interesting, when we put it into that context of, modern medicine, modern understanding.
Right.
Because, if I was in the Middle Ages and I woke up from that sleep paralysis state, I'd be like, the devil kept me still again.
Yeah, absolutely. You would
I
be,
don't know
right?
what I did wrong.
Why, God, why?
Yeah,
5 lashes.
Or worse, you do know something you've done wrong, and you go, this is because I did that.
Yes.
And you have a very clear picture in your head of this is what the devil's punishing me for. Yeah. Whereas now, you go on
To a doctor.
Yeah. Or to... yeah,
Google.
sorry. Yeah, maybe to a medical professional and not to Google. I should specify.
Or the local newspaper.
Yes. And you tell them all about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I don't know. Maybe this is the quickest way to a medical intervention for this person.
It's a cry for help.
Yeah.
It's funny you should say that too, because I think that like around those periods when it does happen, I think I feel generally haunted.
Yeah.
You know, I think those are actually more triggered by like anxiety or stress. You know,
Right.
like
Your brain's in a weird turmoil
Yeah.
anyway.
Imagine you have that feeling because you are generally an anxious person. So you're putting this together with, I'm nervous, I'm maybe in a very big rich person house that feels very empty, but yet I
While
keep
the
hearing
peasants around
sounds.
me are all starving.
Yes, exactly. But they're not people. So
But they do have pitchforks.
I'm all alone in this house with 70 support staff and a bunch of rats. And I keep hearing noises for some reason, even though I'm alone.
The French Revolution's just happened. Like,
Yeah.
You'd want to call someone in to help, right?
Right.
Say, hey, can you just keep watch over me at night to see if you're hearing and seeing the same things?
Yes,
Yeah.
but the house bell is already ringing, so you're not able to get through.
all of them.
Presumably. The line's already engaged. So.
Well, what a segue this happens to be, because a cousin who was a nurse once slept with her and also noticed these strange noises. On one occasion, this room was given up to a very matter-of-fact young man to sleep in, and the next morning, he said that the room was very strange, with queer noises in it.
If I'm the person writing to the paper and I've experienced this thing,
Yeah, you'd make up some people to corroborate yourself.
or even, like, I've told this to everyone in my life and they're like, yeah, I heard the noises. Yeah, man. No, totally. No, I heard those
Can we
noises.
just get on with breakfast?
Yeah. Or like, yeah, I heard noises. It's an old house. And you're like, yes, excellent. They heard the noises too.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm sure like people were very susceptible to
The power of suggestion.
indeed. So yeah, I think it probably wouldn't be hard to get people to hear voices or sounds that you've heard.
Yeah. Yes,
this
was the nurse or the young man prompted in any way?
Well, by the way, I thought of one. Maybe like rustling in the trees that echoed through the house.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
that sound. That makes a lot of sense. Because, I mean, paper, obviously, is dried wood.
Is dried
dried
trees.
leaves.
Yeah.
Just so you know, wait, I genuinely don't. We don't usually like do the go-to debunk. I think, or maybe we do that more often now than we used to.
Yeah.
I think when we hear the same things over and over again, which we're in well-trod territory at this point in
Yeah.
this particular story.
Oh, yeah, we don't have to do this for everyone. I just kind of...
Oh no, it's fun. No,
But you
don't
notice
get
some
me wrong.
patterns, and human brain wants to explain patterns.
for certainly.
I feel like that's not difficult to debunk. Whereas we have other stories where like a figure just appeared directly in front of their face. You know,
Yeah.
hi, like
Yeah.
that type of goes. Howdy.
Yeah. just popped up and said, hey. Yeah.
Well, look, I just want to remind you that this was written back in like 1911, 1914, somewhere around there.
Right.
Keep that in your mind when we hear the next bit.
Okay.
If it brings to mind anything at all, let me know.
Okay.
Her mother also had an extraordinary experience in the same house. One evening, she had just put the baby to bed when she heard a voice calling, "Mother." She left the bedroom and called to her daughter, who was in the lower room. "What do you want?" But the girl replied that she had not called her. Then, in her turn, asked her mother if she had been in the front room, for she had just heard a noise as if someone was trying to fasten the inside of the bars of the shutters across. But her mother had been upstairs and no one was in the front room. The experiences in the Rathmeyers' house were of similar auditory nature, i.e. the young ladies heard their names called, though it was found that no one in the house had done so.
I see.
Now, I don't know if I just spent too much time on the internet trawling through creepypasta.
That sounds very creepypasta. I don't know
Yes.
the specific one. I'm not... Is there a specific one you have?
There,
in
there
mind?
is a specific creepypasta, okay.
I actually didn't know what creepypasta was.
Oh, okay. All right. Creepypasta is basically ghost stories posted around the internet. Think campfire stories, but people like get together in spooky internet corners and tell the same stories over and over again.
Okay.
It's been like copy pasted, so it's copy.
Yeah, originally it was
Paste.
copy pasta, is like a block of text that would just be copied around the internet and it wouldn't necessarily be creepy, and then creepy being creepy pasta.
Yeah.
Yes. I know the etymology. I don't know that specific
But yeah.
creepy pasta though.
No, there's one specifically of a girl playing upstairs hearing her mother calling from downstairs.
Right, yeah.
And the girl running down the stairs to go see what's up in the kitchen, and the mother grabs her from under the stairs and pulls her aside.
Oh,
and
yes.
says, "Don't go in the kitchen. I heard it too."
Ah, that's
Dun,
a
dun,
classic.
And it's basically the same dang story.
Do you reckon that is, simultaneous invention, or do you reckon the person that wrote that creepypasta read this book?
I have no idea. It's a well-published book, but I think it's just a testament to human storytelling
Right,
and the
right.
archetypes of stories that get to us. I was giving myself the shivers while I was saying that. I
Yes.
don't mind admitting.
Yes. Oh, it's... Yeah. Oh.
So yeah, from here to the campfire, to the playground, to the internet.
It makes me think, right, because a trope of a lot of horror stories, like really hacky horror stories, is you've got to spend one night in the haunted house to inherit it, right? That's a classic comedy/horror trope. And we were talking earlier about the power of suggestion, and it makes me think, if you've been told that a house is haunted, if everyone that's gone into this house before you has said this is a haunted house, how much more likely are you to have that experience of something weird happened and it was really memorable and we all then told it to the next group of people? I find that very, very fascinating. But I also am aware that now I've started to put my debunking hat on, and I don't want to put my debunking hat on. I want to put
No, you know what? Let's go for it. What's the...
Yeah.
My first thought was generational schizophrenia.
Oh, wow. I didn't go that way. I like this.
Too far?
Yeah.
You know what? Good point. Very good point. Especially if this is a rich person, they may be a little bit inbred, so there's higher chance of hereditary illnesses cropping up.
Interesting.
That's even further.
Unfortunately, these are short anecdotes, so they are unlikely to have a full suite of diagnostic criteria for any individual person. If they were longer stories, then I would absolutely armchair diagnose them with...
Yes.
I don't even know why I brought it up. Debunking's super fun.
It's so fun.
So I didn't call it out at the time. That is the end of that particular story.
Okay.
Sorry, I'd normally do that a little earlier.
Yeah.
Do you have a theory?
Do I have a theory?
And it's fine if you don't.
I don't have one grand
I think
unifying
we've had
theory.
a couple good ones already here. But...
Yeah, I don't... It's hard because obviously I've got theories for individual components, but it's really hard to come up with one unifying theory of all of it, right? Because it's almost feels like there's some root cause behind all of it. And I think it's ghosts. This one's ghosts, guys. This one's this one
all right.
just is ghosts. I've come around.
Good point. We're down to it. It's ghosts.
So
All right.
that's my theory. What about you guys?
Generational schizophrenia.
Yeah, I like that.
I thought that might be where you're going. Yeah.
How about you, Callum?
I think I'm an occurrence. I wasn't thinking that before you said it, but yeah, good point.
It's pretty compelling.
And also, just wind, rustling, trees, whatever, echoing around the big house.
Strange sounds are not something... I'm going to need to hear some stronger stuff to be convinced that there are ghosts present in this, because I work with audio all the time. I can hear strange sounds even in pieces of my own audio I've recorded. You know, maybe I'm haunted. And maybe I just am, and that's a separate issue that we can work through off air. But I'm going to need something a bit stronger, I think.
I actually had something where I felt haunted like a while back, and Callum's probably going to think I'm, beating a dead horse at this point. But
Depends if I've edited this story out of a previous episode or not.
sure you have. It was something I brought up at a dinner party that we had as well, and this is not going to sound very compelling by any means.
This is the plant, isn't it?
It's the plant. Yeah. So I was in the lounge room.
I love a story where a pair of friends, one's telling the story and the other one says, it's that story, isn't it?
Look, it's the plant, the cat, or the tap. It's one of the three.
Okay.
All
Sorry.
plausible stories.
Story of the plant.
Story of the plant. Well, I mean, and it was basically that I was in the lounge room, airtight room, like nothing's getting in, and there was a plant in the corner, and it just rustled. And then afterwards, I searched the whole room. Like, there was literally no air, like there was no breeze, no fan, nothing that could have rustled this plant. So I was convinced that there was a ghost in the house that rustled the plant. There's nothing more to the story than that, but I felt a ghostly presence, all I'm saying.
That plant got a twitch. Just had like a spot it couldn't reach.
It was like, plants are...
It was blown on by a ghost.
They're not ghosts. Plants are alive. They move.
Not like this.
They move throughout the course of the day, and if they move themselves into a particularly unstable equilibrium, then they're going to flop at some point.
I'm not convinced.
I'm more convinced by that story than by the last ghost story we had, though.
All right, let's move on to somewhere else in Dublin then, shall we?
Yeah, give me some stronger stuff.
All right, let's do it. Occasionally it happens that ghosts inspire a lawsuit.
Ooh, excellent.
In the 17th century, they were to be found actively urging the adoption of legal proceedings, but in the 19th and 20th centuries, they play a more passive part. A case about a haunted house took place in Dublin in the year 1885, in which the ghost may be said to have won. A Mr. Waldron, a solicitor's clerk, sued his next-door neighbour, one Mr. Kiernan, a mate in the merchant service, to recover £500 for damages done to his house. Oops, I forget to look up the exchange rate on that one, but £500 in 1885 is a considerable sum of money.
Oh, you could buy a house with that.
An estate, probably, yeah.
I do have an inflation app on my phone.
I do too. All right, fine.
What's an inflation app?
Oh, you can put in like what a currency was worth at a certain point in history, and then
very cool. Love
yes,
that.
I've got.
You've got one.
I've got an ailing phone, but I have bookmarked the Bank of England's inflation calculator and also the Great British Pounds to Australian dollars calculator.
Interesting. Yeah.
All right. So, how much was £500 in?
Do you want to play some bets, Ollie?
Sure. £500. I'm going to say $100,000.
100,000 AUD? Yeah, God, that feels right. I'm going to say 1.2 million Australian dollars. I'm going to say that the exchange rate has really suffered.
Now I'm super curious. I thought about going big, and I was like, oh, I'll go big-ish. it's only £500.
No, Ollie's basically spot on. That's 100,000 Australian dollars.
No shit.
Wow.
Yeah.
No way.
I just wanted to go something sufficiently different. That's incredible.
That was pure coincidence.
Yeah, it's about £55,000 sterling, so about 102,000 Australian dollars.
Well, at least it wasn't spot on. That'd be almost creepy.
Kiernan altogether denied the charges, but asserted that Mr. Waldron's house was notoriously haunted. Witnesses proved that every night from August 1884 to January 1885, stones were thrown at the windows and doors, and extraordinary and inexplicable occurrences constantly took place.
Well, the first one is explicable by he was unpopular. People did not like this dude and threw stones at his house. A ghost.
Yep.
But I'm assuming there'll be other occurrences that we're going to hear about.
I haven't said the end yet.
Well, you really have to dislike someone to start throwing stones at their house.
Yeah. Or you'd just be a teenager, frankly.
Maybe.
With nothing else to do in 1880s Ireland.
Yeah, we haven't heard about the proximity of that house or like where it is located relative to local teens. Is this just a particular area where the reckless youth congregate, ruffians and riffraff and
This is
all the rest?
Catholic Ireland in 1880s.
Okay.
The proximity to a youth is yes.
Yeah, okay.
Does the youth last only until about 13 back then, or you're married off by the time you're 15?
Yeah, I think by about 15 it's no longer youth. It's probably fair to say.
Okay, well, you're no longer socially a youth, but are you still chucking stones at windows level of maturity?
Oh,
Yes, of
definitely.
course.
100%, yeah.
Because I'm going to say there are a lot of married men of ripe old age of 15 in that era that are definitely still chucking stones at windows. Yeah.
Mrs. Waldron, wife of the plaintiff, swore that one night she saw one of the panes of glass of a certain window cut through with a diamond, and a white hand inserted itself through the hole. She at once caught up a billhook and aimed a blow at the hand, cutting off one of the fingers. This finger could not be found, nor were any traces of blood seen.
Sorry, go back again. So the hand emerged from a hole that was cut in the floor?
In the window.
In the window.
So in the window, a diamond-shaped hole appeared, and a white hand came through it.
Appeared in the window. So it's not like someone cut a hole in the window.
No, a hole was cut in the window,
Oh, and
and
the
a hand
hole
started
remained.
coming through. So she picked up a billhook, which is like a big machete,
Yeah, okay.
and just chopped off a finger.
That's a really great way to get ghost evidence. I respect that.
But it disappeared.
I feel like that was just an incredibly good cat burglar. Could be the Pink Panther.
Yeah. If we're thinking Pink Panther level, is the person reaching in with gloves, but like the fingers are retracted in the gloves? So they cut off a finger, but it's just like it.
Oh,
I
it's
don't
just
know.
like the glove bit come off. She's
Yeah, yeah,
degloved the actual glove.
Yes.
Yeah.
They haven't degloved the hand.
No.
That's much more horrible.
Well, admittedly, the cleanup, I'm pretty sure you've got a substantial amount of veins that are running through your fingers. So, in theory, I'm pretty sure if you lost a finger, it would squirt profusely out.
It probably would.
So it
but
would create a big mess, they would have to clean up the mess and retrieve the finger. I think
there was
you're
no
actually
blood.
on the money, by the way. I
Yeah.
think that maybe she cut something, but it definitely wasn't a finger.
Yeah.
Maybe
yeah.
maybe.
What? No. I don't want to know what you think.
I mean, all I was thinking of maybe they cut the bit of the glove, but where were you going to go?
Nowhere.
It was a different time. They have different cultural standards.
They weren't allowed to put a glove on that.
Whereas now, anyway. Yes, Irish Catholics. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. A servant of hers was sorely persecuted by noises and the sound of footsteps. Mr. Waldron, with the aid of detectives and policemen, endeavoured to find out the cause, but with no success. The witnesses in this case were closely cross-examined, but without shaking their testimony. The facts appeared to be proved, so the jury found for Kiernan the defendant.
I just want to jump in here with Phoenix White Ghost Attorney. That's it. That's all I'm doing. I've got nothing else to add. Thank you.
At least 20 persons had testified on oath to the fact that the house had been known to have been haunted. The end.
So they just knew that someone had told them at some point that it had been haunted.
Yep.
Sounds like solid evidence.
I would. Yeah, that's
It's
really
like-
interesting. I could probably testify that, if there's a local haunted house, I could testify that's a haunted house without actually believing that there were ghosts in it at any point.
I mean,
right?
I did tell you about the plan incident, right? So
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
my house is haunted.
Oh, you mean the haunted house? Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I don't know if this is also one that became a tourist destination or had tours.
Well, we've heard
or
of it, so
anything.
probably.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, you mean
But
this particular story?
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I guess not at the point of this legal inquiry.
But
so.
there was clearly money at stake, about $100,000 worth at stake. So, yeah, if you promise each of those 20 witnesses, hey, I'll give you £10 to say that this place is haunted.
Yeah.
Do you know this actually takes me back to a previous episode about the jail in Port Arthur?
Yeah.
So we did an episode about a haunting at the Port Arthur jail, and one of their points of evidence for the haunting of the jail was they had people fill out feedback cards when they were walking out. And I was saying to Callum when Like, if you have the creativity and the freedom to just write on some random card whatever you want, surely you're going to absolutely put the truth on that card.
Right.
You know, this is one of the few times where I probably would make something up just for fun. Like,
You'd feel really bad if you were one of like the 20 people that testifies and then you later found out that the rest of them got paid off. And you just went, oh no, I just thought the place was haunted.
you guys got paid? No,
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I don't know about you, Justin. Was that enough obvious ghost haunting for you?
That's true.
Stones in a white gloved hand?
See, the stones, no. The white hand the white hand is more than we got in the previous story.
Okay.
So I feel more satisfied. I still need a little more, I think.
I think it would be good for you to pick a favourite at the end.
Yes, I'd love that.
Well, it might be this one.
Ooh.
Best till last?
Of course, you know me. Now, we're going back a fair way here, guys. We are now in the legendary ghosts section of True Irish Ghost Stories. So this isn't just random guff that people have written into the paper. Some of these ghosts are so well known and so well documented that they are still worthy of collecting in this book of Irish ghosts.
Right, so this is basically like, I'm writing this book, I can't not mention, you know,
Yeah, exactly.
this guy.
Or enough people wrote in this same story,
Right.
and it goes back so far that it's like, well, okay.
I'm not going to attribute it to one person's story
this
because it's
isn't-
just a thing that everyone knows.
This isn't Mrs. Wicklow wrote in, it's generally known that.
The white knight that fell in battle and haunts the neighbourhood type of situation?
Have you read this already?
No.
Oh my goodness. You nailed it. Well, it's slightly more debunked if you've picked all of the key elements of the story having never read
I
it.
tell you, I can't really get any better than picking that 500 pounds. Was it 500 pounds was worth? Like,
That's incredible.
Yeah, I'm starting to get a little suspicious here.
I mean, I feel like these things are completely unrelated.
All right, would you like to hazard a guess before the story begins?
I feel like I've given you all the specifics I can, but
Yeah.
okay.
Specifically, what weapon the ghost uses? Would it help if I gave you the year?
No. I just want to throw it out there as a guess. So my first thought was a lance, and then I was like, oh, probably not really efficient. So then I thought my second option was the classic sword, but then I thought, well, I mean, like
You
so
don't
many
have to
people
just
use
guess
swords.
every weapon.
Yeah, just
But,
keep listening
all
wrong.
right, I was going to tell you my actual guess, though. The other two don't count.
Okay.
I've not seen it yet. My actual guess is I'm going to say a mace.
Interesting. Okay. Justin, would you like to hazard a guess too? And you are allowed to pick something Ollie's already said if you think that he's
Yeah.
spot
I
on.
mean, I'm tempted by those. I mean, I have played a lot of D&D, so shillelagh would be potentially.
Oh, shit.
No, I'm going to say, I'm going to go for Lance. Because I can imagine the visual of a knight on a horse charging down a corridor with a lance. I think that's a pretty compelling image. That's where I'm placing my bets.
Now I feel like I want to change it because that's such a... No, I'm sticking with the mace. Sticking with the mace.
All right.
Stick with your guts.
Lock it in.
In 1642, Walstown Castle, the seat of the Wall family in County Cork, was burnt down by Cromwellian troops, and Colonel Wall, the head of the family, was captured and imprisoned in Cork jail, where he died.
Oliver Cromwell gives Oliver's bad name, really. Sorry. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, that's history's sixth greatest villain, Oliver Cromwell.
Oh, so at least we still got Oliver Twist, you know.
Yeah.
Wait, you've got sixth? Like, you really went through a list there.
Yeah,
Let's not rank
no,
them.
we can't. No.
Let's have a power ranking of the worst people ever.
Okay, I thought of three more, and I figured I'd better put some buffer room in just in case.
That's good. That's good. Write in to the secondhand haunting, or directly to the Peace Inner Network with your list of worst people.
Sure,
Can you
listener.
to kill a few people?
Yeah, he's in the buffer zone there for me. I
Yeah,
think.
but I think he's also a family member, so it's hard to stay prejudiced.
Yeah.
Of all three of us, yes.
A lot of stepchildren, am I right?
There's the episode quote.
Thank you.
One of the defenders during the siege was a man named Henry Bennett, who was killed while fighting. His ghost was often seen about the place for years after his death. His dress was of a light colour, and he wore a white hat, while in his hand he carried a pole.
I think you're right.
Ooh, okay. A pole, though. Like a pole arm. I'm
going to say pole arm.
Yeah,
A lance,
rather
I
than
think,
a
is
lance.
spot on.
Yeah, wow. Awesome. Okay.
Should have
Which
changed.
I only guessed it, and then he moved away. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, wow.
Always happens to me. I fly too close to the sun.
That's fair.
So he carried a pole which he used to place across the road near the castle to stop travellers. On a
He's like a lollipop lady.
Yes.
Okay.
Sometimes it's unfortunate in the podcast I can't do the visual joke. You know, like I'm trying to like slap down the lance in front of the kids. Or,
Yeah. In front of the kids.
Oh, you're thinking like a car park boom arm.
Yeah, like you shall not pass.
It's like the toll gate of this guy.
the toll gate night.
What's the phantom toll booth? That's something, isn't it?
Ooh.
If it isn't, we've invented a really cool ghost.
No, I'm pretty sure that's already
Okay.
a book.
Amazing.
On a polite request to remove the pole, he would withdraw it and laugh heartily.
One of his classic japes.
A caretaker in the place, named Philip Coughlin, used frequently to be visited by this apparition. He came generally about supper time, and while Coughlin and his wife were seated at the table, he would shove the pole through the window. Coughlin would beg him to go away and not interfere with a poor, hard-worked man. The pole would then be withdrawn with a hearty laugh from the ghost. The end.
So, you know, this is a story where the visual representation of the ghost and said pole are quite distinct. Like, it's hard to say that was a rustling tree.
Yeah, you've got rats in your walls with a giant pole.
A ghostly figure actually putting a pole down in front of you in broad daylight, but like broad sight.
Or even just sitting down to dinner and in through the window comes this pole. Like, it's a Monty Python sketch.
This
It's
is
just a pole
great.
invading the dining room table.
I mean, is he a ghost? Is he just like a lad? I'm on board either way. I love this guy.
Puts on a white dress, a white hat, carries a pole around and starts to poke people at dinner time. If he was essentially acting as a lollipop lady,
Yes.
right, they would not have had like reflective oranges and yellows back then.
No.
So
no.
to be seen easily at night, you would wear a white dress, wouldn't you?
This is it. We've figured it out.
But he's not getting anything from this, though.
Well, he's getting some sort of pleasure, some enjoyment.
Is he the 1600s version of, like, Hal from Malcolm in the Middle getting sick of people speeding down his street?
I have not seen this episode.
I mean,
No?
that's probably a better place than I went, because like in my mind, I was like, pole kink? Like,
That's right. Hang on, what's his name? William? No, Mr. Bennett? You're going to remove that dress slowly. But you can leave your hat on.
okay. It'd be like a nightgown, right? Like that's the
Yeah,
visualization.
I mean, it
like
says
a big white nightgown.
White dress, I don't think that means literally a dress. I think it probably just
like
means
dresses
garb.
in clothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did we get... Was it pointy hat?
I'll open the book again.
I'm
I don't know why I
fascinating.
put it down.
I don't know why I'm so curious about the hat.
It was the story about Scrooge.
Oh,
Yeah.
the nightcap. Is that what we're thinking?
Spot on. I was thinking, is that more like a nightcap?
Yeah.
So I'm imagining someone, older man in a dressing gown with like a nightcap, and that's kind of pointy.
And a giant
And a giant
lance.
pole.
And a giant pole, obviously. Let's not forget the giant pole.
His dress was of a light colour and he wore a white hat.
Okay.
Doesn't say what shape it was. I like that you've gone to pointy. I don't know why, but I like it.
I don't know why I've gone pointy.
You're thinking Gandalf, aren't you?
I'm thinking, yes, he's putting down his staff and saying, "You shall not pass!" And then they're saying, "We would quite like to pass, actually." And he goes, "Okay."
All right then.
Well, fine.
Like my mind absolutely went there. So I'm going to say the reason for this story is that it was a wizard. I'm going to say wizard.
It's a wizard.
Yeah,
Yep.
not
I'm
ghost wizard.
I'm going to say wizard. Yep.
A wizard knight.
Yeah.
It wasn't Ilance, it was his wizard staff.
It's a very long wizard lanty staff. That's right. Yep.
This really feels like trickster wizard behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything that I know about wizards is that they are fundamentally impish and, just tricksters. I mean, if you do all that book learning all your magic tricks, being given the horrible gift of prophecy, I'm combining a fair few myths here. You got to have something to let off a bit of steam, and why not harmlessly blocking the road? Just being generally a public and private nuisance.
Yeah. I guess it's focusing on this one family. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, it's dinner time, is it? I don't think so.
Did you say that he's blocking like a main road or the private road to their house? Because that is an important detail, I think.
It just says the road near the castle, so I'm going to say that's a public road. And he stops travellers, so people trying to get past that sounds like a public road.
Okay. I just liked the idea that as soon as you turn off the main road to get to the castle, he's like in their driveway, essentially.
He is the gate of a gated community.
Yes.
What do you think he'd do if you asked him impolitely?
That's a good point.
That
It doesn't
pole
mention
would be
it in the
going
story.
elsewhere.
That was what I was expecting out of this story, was that this is like a moral parable. If you're polite to him, he lifts it up and you go about your way. But if you see his weapon as a challenge and you kind of step to him, then he will meet you with arms.
Become
He's
like
trying
the Black Knight in the Holy Grail.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking Monty Python, maybe.
It's merely a scratch.
I have no quarrel with you, good Sir Knight. Please step aside. No, I've got a really... This is something very personal to me now. This isn't actually about you.
Ah, dear.
It just seems like a guy working through some stuff.
It does a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming along and working through some stuff
Oh, wow.
with us this
Yeah.
week. I think we should probably call that episode there.
I worked through some, psychological trauma.
Yeah, I think we've all worked through some things this evening. I've learnt that I don't know the value of 1800s British pounds. We worked through some historical, psychological, social issues. We've really... Sorry, I'm just putting a real moralitas on the end of the episode here.
Wrapping up better than I could.
Yeah. Please just play some, beautiful music behind this for the end of the movie.
I might play the outro theme, but that's...
Oh, yeah, you've got one of those. Oh, man, you guys have all the mod cons. I loved these ghosts, and I would have any of them in my home at any point. So if you'd like to come haunt me, you know where to find me. pzinner.com.au is where you can find all of the people to haunt and also great podcasts like this one.
Are there any specific podcasts they shouldn't interrupt you while you're doing?
Well, we might have another season of Mates coming at some point. Yes. We've kind of been recording one a year, but it's been getting later and later in the year as we forget we do need to start it at some point. And the research is getting more and more.
Oh, the low-hanging fruit's gone.
Yeah, absolutely. We've gone through all 5 UFO stories that are out there. There are no more UFOs. Nobody else has talked about UFOs ever, so I'll also just be floating around on all of the great podcasts on the network like this one.
Lovely. Well, we thank you, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to work through some of the shorter bullshit stories in this book.
Yeah, thank you for pawning those off on me. That's great. That's great.
And hey, if you want to come along again, we can work through some more of these shorter ones, including the one with the ridiculous accent.
Oh, I'm very
It's
keen
not
for
that accent. I'm not going to do French. That's not happening.
Oh, I'm so excited. Now I'm going to make you do French if you do that story.
Sacre bleu! No, it's more north of England,
Oh.
but south of Scotland. All right, that'll be coming up sometime in the future on
Second-Hand Haunting.
Well done. We didn't even practice.